All right. So getting into our stories for today, the first one comes from the register.com, and the title here is Someone is slipping a hidden backdoor into Juniper routers across the globe, activated by a magic packet. And I think the lesson here is that you have to put a piece of cardboard over your Juniper router, right? So, oh wait, that's
Well,
something
magic,
it's very
magic
different.
cardboard. Yeah,
Magic,
maybe. But
magic cardboard. So the situation here is it's not publicly announced how this is happening, but some adversary is compromising through some means Juniper routers, half of which are configured to be VPN appliances, half of which are just, I guess, vanilla routers or serving us other purposes. But they're inserting a backdoor, which is relatively clever. It is in memory only, so it doesn't touch the file system. It listens on the eBPF interface for one of 5 different magic packets. So specifically formatted packets that I'm assuming you wouldn't normally see. If the router, which is infected with this issue, sees one of those magic packets, it makes an outbound outbound SSL connection, I guess is HTTPS, to the IP that made the connection attempt. And if that is successful, it then
that's not
performs.
quite.
Oh,
Let me
go ahead.
correct. That's not
Sorry.
not quite true. When it
Okay.
does the callback, it's to a specific IP.
Oh, it is to a specific. Okay, I thought it was to the one that made the call. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, I was reading the full breakdown.
But
Sorry, go ahead.
it is interesting that once it makes that outbound connection, it also does some authentication. So the infected router will encrypt with a private key, or I guess it's the public key. It'll encrypt with a public key a random hash, which gets sent over the to the other side, which then has to prove that it has the private key before it actually finally establishes the actual connection, which gives access to the operating system on the router. And it's unclear exactly what the adversary is doing once they have it, but the expectation is I think they're moving laterally through the victim's network once they have that access.
Now I'm questioning what I just corrected you on. Hang on. Thought it was to a specific IP. I'm rereading the. See, I did a lot of research today, and I'm getting confused. Maybe it was back to the IP that sent the magic packet.
Because
All
there
right.
was
Well,
some concern. There was some
yeah.
concern by the belief is that the adversary here was concerned that once the content of the magic packets became known, that other adversaries would try to co-opt their back door. And so
Mm-hmm.
they implemented this additional authentication, basically public key authentication mechanism, so that only the adversary who infected it would actually have access. So somewhat clever. Again, I think that the frustrating part for me is that they're not disclosing how the initial compromise happens. Like, this is a post exploitation issue. And so we don't know if it's being done through credential phishing or some other yet to be disclosed vulnerability.
Yeah, I found it. Quoting from the full report, which was done by Black Lotus Labs as part of Lumen, while the magic packets could be sent from anywhere on the internet, the trigger packet contained a callback IP address. This is where the malware would send the challenge enough pass, spawn a remote shell to interact with the file system. Like in the prior campaign, the actors favors procured VPSs with a self-signed cert. The certificate for fingerprint can be found in the indicators of compromise on their GitHub page. The fingerprint was observed on the same IP, blah, 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 at the same time. So I might have read that oddly. It looks like you could have it go to a specific IP,
Okay,
not necessarily just the one that the magic packet came from.
I see.
So the trigger packet could contain a specific IP for that callback to go to. Okay. Sorry
You
for the
could you
confusion.
could you could configure it. Okay, that makes sense. We were both
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
But thank you for clarifying. But that's actually good. I think one of the lessons that I had is you really ought to be looking. And now it's difficult when you have something that's straight out intentionally connected to the internet. But if you have the opportunity to look for unsolicited outbound connections from your infrastructure devices. That's a good opportunity to catch things like this. Now, I think the challenge here is it probably would look like noise.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
but
tough
but
one.
but there is an opportunity there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. There's a couple things I found really interesting. The way that the Black Lotus Labs found this was they noticed just an interesting upload to virus total, and they went and
Mhm.
investigated. This is very, very specific. It's very targeted. It's very quiet. Makes me wonder who did the original upload to virus total. Did they know? Were they curious if they would get flagged? That's kind of some odd tradecraft. Most folks know that if you go to virus total, often you're burning your malware, but maybe not. Maybe so much gets uploaded it gets lost in the cruft. It's interesting. I also wonder about like what was the goal? Like who's really behind this? Um, it's very very subtle. And from the report, they tried to figure out. So they tried to send out magic packets to see, who would respond, who was listening, and they only got 36 unique IPs in like a 6 month campaign. Who knows how accurate that is? But one of the things they found out was some of those were not just the what you would expect perimeter interface, but also a number of them were on the management interface that was exposed to the internet, which is not great. We need to
Which,
stop doing that.
please don't do that.
The one last thing I found interesting was I'm quoting directly from the researchers. Quote, we found it noteworthy that the magic packet malware is becoming an increasing trend in use against perimeter devices. First with BPF door and Symbiote, we suspect that this will only increase as greater difficulty in detection creates more trouble for defenders. And what reporting exists is solely the result of greater awareness surrounding this technique, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
I think the challenge that this points out is you can't rely on just a scan from or the output of a scan from either your vulnerability scanner or something like Shodan to identify what is vulnerable. You're basically left with this, what is the population of routers that are exposed to the internet, and you have to kind of hypothesize. Now, I suppose that when they've identified what the magic packet is that's able to trigger it, then they can go do another round. But if you're not aware that it exists, like you're just kind of blind.
We have no idea if like a patch exists to stop the initial infiltration route. We have kind of in the dark right now. They do recommend a couple things. Just quoting from the research report for users of enterprise grade routers seeking to improve detection on this activity. We recommend the following hunt guides focused on BPF based malware. So they reference a trusted sec blog and memory injection, which goes, I'm not even going to try to summarize, it goes very deep into memory analysis of what's running in memory. Useful, but very sophisticated. A Sandfly security blog also has a good write up, Elastic blog. And then they also have a link to a detection blog for CDOR, which is what they think the malware is based on. And finally, searching your environment for all IOCs provided in this report. Sorry, IOCs, indicators of compromise. Review network logs for signs of data exfiltration, lateral movement. Well, it's such a vague recommendation, but sure. And then check for common persistence mechanisms. So it's interesting. This is an area I don't know that we've got a lot of, as they mentioned, a lot of awareness or controls or automated indicators of compromise built around yet. So it's an
This is
interesting one, though.
it's an unsatisfying one because there's more, it leaves you with more questions than answers. One of the obvious responses, if you're concerned, is because it's not persistent, is to reboot your device. But the issue is you don't know how it got there in the first place, and also you don't know if you are if you're infected. So it would be really good, in my estimation, to first determine if you have it, if you have that implant, and then if you do, then you have to roll out your incident response program. But I think that the challenge is we just don't know how it got there. And so, although I will tell you, when I read the article, it leads me to believe that perhaps Juniper knows and isn't saying publicly yet.
Could be. I hate to say this, but this is sophisticated enough that it makes me wonder if this is a targeted nation state, sort of
Hmm.
deep cover, get persistence and wait until you need it, as opposed to widespread further exploitation beyond this.
And oh, by the way, it's been going on since at least mid 2023.
Yeah. And my recommendation is reboot your routers about every 30 seconds, and I think you'll be in good shape.
It's true. If you have high availability, it shouldn't be a problem, right?
I suppose you could just flip flop, or just, you know, it's okay. Everybody needs a little break.
It's routers going down, coffee break time.
That's right. And then a minute later, again. It would foster workplace collaboration, hallway discussions.
Think about all of the things that companies are trying to accomplish with their crazy back to office mandates. Like this would really solidify that, because now people would have to get up from their desk and they would have to go talk to each other.
Again, IT can be an enabler,
Like
bringing
this
people
is
together
this is
in hatred of the network.
this is such a good thing. I like this seems like there's an opportunity for consulting here.
I will await the Nobel Peace Prize Committee phone call.
Let us know how that works out, Brent.
Sit up, wait. They call in the middle of the night, I'm told. I'll be sitting there, waiting.